Time for another video. Got any ideas?
The Pacifist character concept video did pretty well.
And we did say that if enough people liked it, we'd do it as a character build. So what do you think?
You got it, Ted. Adventurers League Legal Pacifist character build. It is then. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy's Ted.
Maybe it's your first time visiting Ted's Basement. It's a place we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
All right, we're going to jump into another character build. We did the pacifist concept and some of the ideas that would go into making a good pacifist, and even question the idea of a pacifist in a game like 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. But a lot of people said they wanted to see the actual character build, so we whipped something together. We made it a Adventurers League legal character build, which, as always, you can find the character sheet to D&D Beyond, as well as the character build guide down in the description. At this point, it's only fair to mention this is a sponsored video by D&D Beyond. Of course, we love D&D Beyond. It's a great resource for all your digital needs. It's a huge database where they have everything you could need from the SRD, but you can also unlock the content and have access to all your official Wizards of the Coast products from Dungeons & Dragons right on their website. It makes making these character builds so fast, so easy. There's DM management resource tools over there. They got it all.
They got videos, they got articles. Now, there's lots of stuff for every level of gamers. So highly recommend you checking out D&D Beyond.
Whether you're looking to use their free services or their paid, we highly recommend it.
All right, so let's dive into this. So when we're doing character build guides, we always want to talk about, number one, if it's AL legal, we have to worry about what books we're using and following their structure. But we look at race options, class options, and background options. So what are we thinking for our race?
Race, we had a couple different ones in mind, and because of some of the decisions we made for character class, we were kind of relegated to using the player's handbook.
So with our player's handbook and knowing that we are definitely looking at a heavy charisma influence, if this is going to be a pacifist, you got to be able to talk people down, which means we need to look at that charisma bonus. So we were looking at half-elf, we were looking at Tiefling, and we were looking at Dragonborn.
For our class options, we saw a lot of potential with the Bard, the Paladin, and the Sorcerer as well.
For our background options, there was loads, and with a pacifist you can go in a variety of different ways. We thought about soldier and someone who had seen too much and was like, no, I want to stop this. We're looking at acolyte, someone who has spent time in deep prayer and meditation, and we're also looking at folk hero, someone who came up from humble beginnings.
So with that in mind, we decided for our race that we were going to go with Tiefling. I don't think we've done too many of them for our character builds. We thought that could be interesting. We're actually going to use all three of those character classes we mentioned. And for background, we went with folk hero. We thought it would be a cool and interesting story element. So this is going to inform some of our decisions when it comes to our ability scores.
So since we're going to be taking both Paladin, Bard, and Sorcerer, we know that we need a 13 charisma and a 13 strength, and we know that the Tiefling is not going to give us a bonus to strength, so we have to keep those bonuses in mind when we're looking at our starting stats. So since we're looking at all of these things, we did not want to have a dump stat, so we wound up actually going with the point buy mechanic, and that wound up giving us a bonuses across the board. So we started off with our 13 in strength, we put a 12 in both dexterity and constitution.
And for our intelligence, we went with an 11. For our wisdom, we went with another 12, and we went with a 14 for our charisma.
So that bonuses from the base Tiefling out of the player's handbook, it's going to bump that 11 up to a 12 and that 14 in charisma up to a 16, giving us a massive +8 modifier to all of our stats. I think that's really impressive for this particular set.
So with that, we had to decide where we were going to go for our first character class. This was kind of tough. We know if we go Paladin, we get access to heavy armor, and we also know heavy armor has strength requirements. Now, we also know we're not putting any more points in our strength ever. This character's not really about it. We're never going to get higher than a 13. That would open some doors for us, but we're not going to be super worried about or impressed with heavy armor. So that leaves us with either going Bard or going with Sorcerer.
So Bard, we know that if we take multi-class, we're going to get a musical instrument and a skill from it. Unless we needed more instruments, there's no need to necessarily start off with Bard. So we decided we were going to go with Sorcerer to get access to, that magic right away. And that comes with a kind of twofold. Number one, we're going to get access to our subclass right off the bat, and it's going to give us access to that cleric spell list because we're going with Divine Soul. So getting access to all of these spells right off the bat was our strongest choice, and that's why we went there first.
And not only that, for our Divine Soul, we went with Neutrality as our pick. And the reason why we went with Neutrality is we wanted to add that protection from good and evil onto our spell list without any cost. And it made sense for this one. They are all about non-violence, so protecting people from violence or being possessed seemed like a good idea.
So for our second level, we went into Bard, number one, to get access to that extra skill right away, and to then be able to start diving into all of that extra, bardic magic that we're going to be able to get. Increasing the amount of, spells known for us is going to be useful.
Not only that, bards are masters of words and communication, so we figured that this character is going to try and talk their way out of a lot of conflicts. Bard made a lot of sense. And then from Bard, I think we went to Paladin next.
Yeah, we actually went with Paladin, and we stick with Paladin for quite a number of levels to give us the martial prowess to be able to protect our allies against our enemies. So the reason for doing this, we're going to wind up taking the protection fighting style once we take our second level in Paladin. When we get to third level, we're going to take redemption, which is going to give us our channel divinities. You want to get into what we got there?
Channel divinities, we get Emissary of Peace, which gives us that blanket +5 for a minute to persuasion checks. It was great for talking our way out of conflict and getting people to maybe come to a peaceful resolution. And then the other one is Rebuke the Violent, and that is if you harm others, you will be harmed yourself. Maybe if the carrot doesn't work, the stick will.
So since we already have a 16 charisma, we want to maximize our persuasion checks. So at fourth level of Paladin, we are going to take that ASI and we're going to dump those 2 points right into charisma, and now we've got an 18.
Now, a lot of times this would be a hard decision for us between going another level of Paladin for 5th level and getting extra attack. But this character doesn't actually care about that. For that reason, we went to Sorcerer because we wanted to get access to Font of Magic.
The Sorcerer points are a good component to this build because once we get access to our meta magic abilities, which we're going to take at our next level, that's going to allow us to choose Distant and Twin so that we can be able to cure wounds from across the battlefield, potentially hitting multiple targets at the same time, or protecting once we started getting into some of our protection spells as well. You've got a lot of uses, a lot of things that you can wind up doing to aid and help out your party.
Charming more than one opponent at a time, healing more than one person at a time. There's actually a bunch of stuff that you can do with that twin and combining it with those Sorcerer, Bard, and Cleric spells.
So with that, we're then going to jump back into Bard for a couple of levels. The next level is going to give us Jack of all trades. Really helpful, but the key component here is getting access to that expertise, which we're absolutely going to put into persuasion as well as
insight. If you can know people and communicate with people well, it's going to help you so much to find diplomatic solutions rather than having to break out into violence.
So, some DMs are going to allow you, if you've got a good insight roll on your target, you might be able to get advantage on your persuasion rolls. But, if you've already got expertise and you can channel divinity for the Emissary of Peace for another +5, that's going to be some solid rolls on your persuasion checks.
Not only that, you're a bard, so you have access to your inspiration dice.
Incredible ways of making that roll climb higher and higher.
So also, this is our third level in Bard, so we get to pick our college. We're going to go College of Glamour.
So getting access to this, this fae, this, alien beauty type magic is going to give you a number of, really awesome things. So we're going to get Mantle of Inspiration and Enthralling Performance. Both abilities are really going to be able to help you out. So Enthralling Performance, a number of people people equal to your charisma modifier who, watch and listen to your entire performance become charmed by you unless they pass a wisdom saving throw. They become charmed and idolize you if they fail that saving throw. Totally useful. You can, do a number of amazing things with that should you so choose. Mantle of Inspiration. You target a number of people up to your charisma modifier again, and they gain temporary hit points.
Not only that, as a reaction, the people affected by this, not only do they get temporary hit points, but they can move up to their speed away from enemies, and they do not draw attacks of opportunity. So if you were all about non-violence, having them not harmed by those temporary hit points is good, and actually moving away from the conflict, even better.
So from here, we're going to take 2 more levels of Paladin. I know we already talked about, not really caring about that extra attack, but we're trying to get, towards some more redemption abilities. And with that, we're looking for that Aura of Protection.
Yeah, the Aura of Protection ability from the Paladin is going to give everyone a bonus to their saving throw. Is really good, and it gets us one step closer to that redemption aura as well.
From here, though, we're going to try to, start getting into some more ASIs because we're this close for both Bard and Sorcerer. We're actually going to jump in there and grab those 4th levels of Sorcerer and Bard. When we take Sorcerer, we're going to be able to maximize our Charisma and bump that up. And then when we take Bard, we're going to get that next ASI, and we're going to put that in Wisdom because we're looking to bump up our Insight as well.
So next we're going to finish off Paladin with 2 levels. We're going to get that Aura of the Guardian, which is pretty sweet because when people around us take damage, we can suck up half of it so they get hurt less. I don't know if it's great for you, but it's better for them. Definitely works. And then we're going to go for our 8th level of Paladin, which is going to be another ASI or feat.
Which we're going to take another 2 points into Wisdom just to bump up that Insight even more. Insight and Persuasion are really the bread and butter of this particular character so that we can talk people down because we already know what they're thinking.
All right, so now we're going to bum rush Sorcerer and finish it off with 2 more levels. We're going to get access to 3rd level spells, as well as we're going to get our keystone ability for this one, which is Empower Healing. We're all about keeping people from harming each other, but when they do get harmed, we want to remove the harm.
So if we've stopped Paladin and we've stopped Sorcerer, then that means we're either going to have to pick up a whole new character class or do more with Bard. So we're going to take 2 more levels of Bard. 19th and 20th level is 5 and 6 for Bard. So we're going to get access to 3rd level Bard spells here, as well as we're going to get Mantle of Majesty. So Mantle of Majesty allows you as a bonus action to cast command, and over the course of the next minute, you can command as a bonus action. Neither of these uses is taking a spell slot, and anyone that's already charmed by you automatically fails their save on command. So this is a way to just be like, stop, no more fighting, you, knock it off.
You're all in timeout. Everyone goes to the corner. No one's getting supper tonight.
So it's a 20th level ability. It's pretty awesome. We already know that all of our spell saves are going off of charisma. We've maximized our charisma. We've put everything we possibly can into getting this nailed down. So while it's a 6th level Bard ability, it is an amazing ability for this particular build altogether.
With that, we're at that point where we like to now discuss how would you use this character as an NPC.
So with this guy being, neutrality, this could go in a lot of different ways. You could have this character kind of wander into a conflict if, the party is uncertain what's actually going on, or if someone is attacking and both sides happen to be the good guys, and for whatever reason combat broke out, especially if it's in an urban setting, this guy could wander in and be like, all right, just knock this off. We need to resolve this.
He could be the one to break it up. Like anytime you have, an epic superhero team up, to be an official team up, I do think they have to fight first, right? So he could be the catalyst to stop the fighting. That's actually what I was thinking as well. But they don't have to be 2 good sides either. It could just be, this is a conflict, this is good, this is evil, but this guy doesn't care because he really just wants violence to not happen. He doesn't want to see anybody harmed, even if they're bad people. So he could be a foil and run interference. Matter of fact, you could almost use this individual, this NPC, as if he or she were a hazard that disrupts and creates problems during the battle for both sides. I would maybe do it randomly or however it makes sense, but they could be taking away the actions from particular characters on either side throughout of it, making the overall combat more difficult and maybe a little bit more interesting, because either you have to make a decision. Do we attack this person that's just trying to stop the conflict, or do we move away from the person so they can stop failing our attacks and keeping us from doing stuff? And, you know, especially if they're doing things like you stab the enemy and this person and the enemy take damage, you know, wounds open up, especially if this is a character that you've already introduced to the players and they already know that this is a kind and good-hearted person that really just has the best for everybody in mind. So when they see this person's robes being soaked in blood, you know, because they've harmed an enemy, maybe it'll give them pause. Maybe they will then think out of the box that perhaps there is a non-violent solution to the conflict that is going on.
In a non-combat situation, this character could very well be an emissary and, you know, wind up, like, you know, being a part of negotiations. You know, perhaps this character is introduced as just an observer. Like, they're there and they don't say a word. All it is them just making insight rolls on everyone that's talking. And then you know, introduce them into another encounter. And they have already sized you up. They know more about you, potentially, than you do, based on their expertise and, you know, amazing wisdom scores. And like, yep, I already got you figured out. You can try to deceive me all you like, but you know what? I got your ticket, buddy. And, you know, then it creates, you know, further complications later on as they have to continue dealing with this this character.
Maybe this person is an emissary or a diplomat that the party has to escort, and they think they're just a normal person. And at some point, a major conflict comes up and happens, and then they begin exhibiting all this power. But still, they kind of use it just to shut down violence and trying to seek a non-conflict or non-violence resolution to whatever's happening.
So a lot of different ways that you could wind up using this character. I think it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys like it out there as much as we do.
Remember, you can find a link to the character sheet as well as the character build guide and our sponsor, D&D Beyond, down in the description below. But before we head on out, I want to take a moment to invite you to join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party over on Patreon. Ted, what can they expect over there?
We're creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons every month that players and DMs alike can drop right into their game.
But that's not all. We do monthly giveaways, and our patrons are added automatically.
We also do weekly hangouts with our patrons and more.
So quest on down to the description below, join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party, and until next time,
stay nerdy.